Steven, answer the question. Answer it, Steven. Answer the question, Steven. Answer the question, Steven. Steven. Steven, answer the question. Steven! Steven! Answer the question, Steven! Steven! Steven, answer the question! Answer it, Steven! Steven! Answer the question! Answer it, Steven! Steven, answer it! Answer the question, Steven! Steven! Ah! 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 Steven. Steven. Answer the question, Steven. Answer it, Steven! Steven!
Alright, already, come on. We'll talk about Conan. What's the matter with you people? I'll talk about Conan, alright? Jesus. We got a good story over there, fully fledged cinematics, a satisfying conclusion, good politics, but no, let's talk about the live stream for an update that's not out yet. I don't know what's wrong with you people, but fine. But you better believe before we get into it, we gotta thank today's sponsor, because I couldn't have done this without them. Today's sponsor is Raid Shadow Legends. For what some consider to be gaming's greatest secret, Raid Shadow Legends continues to be the best free-to-play mobile game on the market. With a seemingly limitless amount of content from raids to PvP and everything in between, it also boasts a champion pool over 600 strong, each coming from their own unique and interesting factions. Personally, my favorite fantasy race in every game I play is always the Elves, and Raid is no exception. The Elves in Raid formed the first civilization thousands of years ago, holding their own against constant orc rampages and the devastating collapse of the Lizardman Empire. Falling to the corruption of Siroth, some even became more interesting Dark Elves, who became obsessed with power and even tried to convert the entire kingdom to shadow magic. In the end they failed, and Aravia was rebuilt to become the brightest, wealthiest, and most powerful country in the realm of Teleria. All in all, it's an incredible faction, but my favorite champion in this faction is the Jingle Hunter. Not only is he an all-around strong champion, he also has a fun name to say. And there's more. This month, Raid is rolling out Forge Pass Season 3, with some amazing rewards on offer including a limited edition artifact set. And if that's not enough, they're releasing brand new champions and some amazing looking skins for Madame Ceres. But here's what really has me excited. Later this month, Raid is giving everybody's favorite champion the upgrade he deserves. Death Knight, the fan favorite seen in all the commercials, down on his luck but always optimistic, is finally becoming a legendary champion. And I can't wait to see how he turns out. It's always a great time to get started with Raid, and if you click the link in the description or scan my QR code here on the screen, you'll get unique bonuses worth $30 to get you started. We're talking a free epic champion, Vergus, 200,000 silver, an energy refill, an experience boost, and an ancient shard to summon more epic heroes as soon as you get into the game. All of this treasure will be waiting for you here. I can't wait to see you in game. Okay, alright, we're talking about Conan, fine. You know, I had a friend when I was younger who would always just start shit and annoy me. And eventually I sat her down and I was like, what do you need from me? What do you want? And she told me, Kronk, you are emotionally distant and I only feel close to you when you're mad at me. Mind you, right, she was 28 and married, I was 14, and there was nothing going on between us. So, you know, enough red flags to set up a communist satellite state. Is that where our relationship is, YouTube? I stop uploading Conan for like a month and you guys start acting out till I yell at you? Is that where we're at? Doesn't have to be this way, guys. There's lots of other content creators. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be this way. If it isn't painfully obvious, there's no script for this video. I'm just gonna ramble, and we're gonna try to make this quick because for the most part, everything I have to say is very positive. I have very few complaints. So I had a chance to sit down and fiddle with the sorcery mechanic, and this is a feature that's been highly requested since the very beginning. It's finally here, everybody's hyped for it, and I like it a lot. To give you a quick rundown, you have to go to a specific location. I don't know how much I want to spoil for you guys, because I know me personally, I like to experience this stuff for myself. But you go to a specific location to unlock the recipe, or get your journey started rather, and then you craft the spells later. Casting spells requires a focus, a wand, and you have to have reagents that are consumed when you cast the spell. So it's not like there's a mana bar or something. You have physical, tangible components that you have to interact with while you engage with sorcery. And the more intense the spell is, the more corruption that you have to maintain. So there's a real sacrifice that comes with the magic. And of course, in typical Conan fashion, it's very bloody, very dark, very lore-friendly sorcery. Gaining your power involves sacrificing human beings, draining their blood, stealing their souls. There's a lot of necromancy, there's summoning demons. There's a lot of really cool stuff here, thematically speaking. I don't know about you guys, but I grew up playing Diablo 2, so I've had a fetish for being a summoner ever since, and summoning skeletons is something I've always enjoyed. Regardless of the game, really, I try to shoehorn it whenever I can. So I'm looking forward, personally, to summoning as many zombies as possible, demons, the works. There's a lot here. This is not an in-depth review or anything. This is just first impressions, what I saw, what I liked. I tested the important stuff. And for the most part, the spells don't feel like really goofy and out of place. You have, summoning lights and summoning demons, and you can, summon shadows. There's a spell that covers the area with fog and summons a bunch of undead, so obviously that's going to be my favorite. And for the most part, I would say that the spells are not going to negatively impact balance, because obviously, I'm a PvPer, so that's the perspective I'm coming from. But I do say for the most part, because there are only a few spells that give me some pause. The ability to teleport, and also the ability to summon your corpse, meaning like whenever you die, you can cast the spell to retrieve your body with all of its contents, which allows for a lot of exploits, I would imagine, because, transporting loot to an undermesh base would become a lot easier. But also the issue of server transfers were always a problem, because if you're being raided and you're about to lose, you just fill up your pockets and teleport away. Now you can do the same thing except cheaper, and there's no cooldown. It costs 50 brimstone, 1 blood, and I think a glass flask. It's incredibly cheap. I don't know, I think that has the potential to really cheapen the raid mechanics. I can tell you that I'm going to have summoning pads in all of my bases, so I can do precisely that in a pinch, and the people who attack me are probably not going to enjoy it. It's just something that would concern me. Teleporters have the same potential, but I get it. People have been begging for fast travel forever. It's whatever. I don't think that's a fight I'm going to win. And the one potential positive of being able to teleport is maybe people will start playing Sipta, because I really prefer that map compared to Exile. I'm so very tired of the Exiled lands. I think additionally there's the ice bridge and the ability to fly. Summon a bat that carries you, I guess. You're not technically flying, you're being dragged in the air, I guess. But, technically, the bridge can be broken very easily, and the bat, if you get hit a single time, you'll get knocked off, is what they say. But for those of you that play on official servers, you know that thralls are incredibly unreliable as far as whether or not they choose to do anything, depending on how laggy your server is. And I think pillar bases are already kind of on the short end of the stick in terms of their viability. It's with the trebuchet changes and with arrows being relatively easy to get, they're already in a really weird spot, and the ability to just fly to somebody's pillar base, potentially. There are ways you could build around it, but I'm not even saying that this is necessarily the end of the world, because this is one of those spells that's expensive and you need 40% corruption to cast it. So I'm not saying that this is like, the pillar bases are done for, they're dead, they're gone, because that's not true. I'm just saying it's something to look out for. I think that it has the potential to negatively impact gameplay in that way. Same with the ice bridge. It's to a lesser degree, of course, but you build a jump pillar, cast the ice bridge, and then use the feather falling spell so you can just leap over somebody's, you know what I mean, like jump a long distance, land on their base with no consequence. And thralls are only going to stop you during the raid window. Like you could very easily just do this outside of the raid window just before, fill up your pockets with bombs and then just wait on the roof. You'll be low on health and stamina because of the corruption, but if it's a clan of 10 raiding a clan of 3, you're still up on health ultimately. So it's not the end of the world. I'm just saying, it's something to look out for. And overall, I'm fully in favor of sorcery. I'm not one of those people who thinks it doesn't belong in the game. I'm just always, I'm a PvPer, so I'm concerned about its impact on PvP. But generally speaking, I think that the PvP in this game is dangerously stale anyways, so anything to shake it up is greatly appreciated. And speaking of shaking things up, the attribute system, our next topic, got a full overhaul. And when I say full overhaul, I mean literally the entire attribute tree was changed. You've got brand new perks. In fact, when you hit certain stat points, you have to actually choose between 2 different perks. So even people with identical stat allotments, they will have very different setups in actuality because their builds are going to perform very differently. And to go along with that, weapons will be split into 2 different categories. They'll have strength scaling weapons and agility scaling weapons, which for the most part, those are pretty straightforward. Daggers and bows are going to be agility, and then, great swords and hammers are strength. And the way that your armor actually gives you benefits now, instead of giving you stat points directly, it gives you the effects of the stats. So, armor that would give you strength would instead give you increased melee damage or something like that, from what I've seen anyways. And I actually really like all of this so far, because one of the biggest issues before this patch was if you didn't have the right armor thrall, not only was your armor weaker, but you literally couldn't get all of the perks that you needed or the stat points you needed to be viable in combat. And I think that this will take some of the edge off of that, while also allowing for real serious build diversity, which of course there's the ability to corrupt certain stat points. Not all of them, but some of them have certain corrupted trees, which changes those passives. So you can imagine there's a lot of diversity here in terms of what people can actually do and how these builds are going to perform. And obviously in PvP, I would assume that corrupted builds are probably not going to be very viable. It's not even the health, it's the stamina. I don't think you can sacrifice on dodge rolls, but I'm sure a few stubborn people are going to try to make something happen, myself among them. And even without the corrupted perks, there's still an immense amount of diversity here. I'll show some of the perks on the screen. So for people who have always wanted to play an RPG with actual builds that matter, I mean, that's the first video I ever made. I made a huge stink about complaining about how bland and uninspired the attribute system is. So this was a much needed change, and I'm really happy to see it. I'm already starting to ramble, so let me just wrap up this section. I think the attribute system change is phenomenal. The varieties that it allows for is incredible. And even more than that, you know, it looks like you're going to have enough points so that if you need to farm but also want to be able to fight, you're going to be able to do that. So you're not just going to be a sitting duck while you're farming. It solves a lot of existing problems. But if you can't tell, we're trying to get through some of this content pretty quickly because, you know, there are plenty of channels out there making guides on the sorcery. There's plenty of channels talking about the building system and whatnot. You didn't come here to talk about the building system. We're here to discuss changes of a certain equine variety. But we'll get there, hold on. We do have to give the update some justice and do the rest of it. So not only are there a whole bunch of new features, there's a bunch of quality of life improvements as well. The building system got a total overhaul, which is so needed. The old school system, the way that it was done was just so tedious and cumbersome and annoying. You never had enough hotbar slots for all the building pieces you needed. The way it works now is it's sort of like Rust, where you build a build hammer, and then when you interact with it, it gives you a build menu where you can just select whatever you want, and then you can just place it, and then if you want to delete it, you right click, and then you can just delete it. It's incredibly straightforward, very smooth, very simple, very easy. Huge improvement to the building system. And I know some PvPers have said that this is a bad thing for PvP, largely because it's going to make it really easy for people to build in their base or, you know, entomb people during a raid. And that's true. I'm not going to disagree, but I think that the solution to that is to find a smarter solution for building during raids. I don't think that the solution for that is to make building really tedious. Building during raids is always just going to be a touchy subject, and there's no easy way to handle that either, but I would not say that this makes it really considerably worse than it was before. I would say that those concerns are largely unwarranted, but I guess we'll see. I could be proven wrong. We have a few smaller things to cover before we get to the meat and potatoes of this video. The ability to change the appearance of your armor has been added to the game, which has also been a highly requested feature amongst many of the people that play this game. Typically you'd have to use a mod to do this before, but now people on console can do this. I'm in favor of it personally. I've never had a problem with illusions or transmogs or whatever you would call them in other games. Some people have made the argument that it's important to know what the other person is wearing in PvP, but I guess I just disagree. Every other PvP game I've ever played, you don't really have any idea what the other person is bringing until it's too late to adjust anyways. And I'm also just trying to imagine the situation where it would matter in Conan. Like, what, you go to gank someone who's farming and it turns out they're in a combat spec and that's a bad thing? Like, what? I guess if you run around ganking naked people all day, then it would be a big bummer if they could actually fight back for once, but I can tell you, me personally, I'm going to be transmogging all my stuff to look like fiber bindings for that exact purpose. I am 100% going to be looking like a bum while also wearing my best gear. The consequence of this is that you're just going to have to go into every fight expecting that they can fight back, which, you know, for the majority of people who play the game is how they already play anyways. Additionally, some of the hotkeys were changed. You hit tab to open up the inventory now, which is fantastic. Much needed. Grass will no longer poke through foundations. A bunch of like smaller things that people have been asking for have been added. I mean, they've packed a lot into this update. I would recommend reading the patch notes. But if I could summarize it, I would say it's almost everything everybody's been asking for a long time in terms of performance and whatnot, including certain PvP changes, which is what you all clicked on this video to see, I imagine. So let's just go ahead and get into it.
So we're going to be adding a damage multiplier when you're on the ground versus a mounted player.
Oh, she's the one, Cole.
We are going to be increasing the stamina costs for all hostile actions taken on while mounted. Stamina costs will be increased for the lance. Additionally, like during like its active frames, like when it's out, that will drain additional stamina. And then each time you hit or impact with the lance,
It ends the attack. And then, like Andy said, once one hit occurs with the lance, you hit anyone with it once, it pulls the lance up again, and you have to, you know, wait for it to reset and then pull it back down and have the stamina to use it again.
Well, two-hand spear combo timing has been adjusted between the third and fourth attacks.
The window is shorter, so it feels more natural.
And so drawbridge health will be reduced, I believe, substantially. Tier 2 buildings will be going up significantly across the board. We're finally making it so you can't touch grass. You don't touch grass.
Yeah.
I never thought I would see the day, boys. How long did it fucking take, huh? How many years have we been chomping at this bit? Fucking finally. Horses finally have counterplay added into the game. If you could even believe it. It took so many years, but you can finally dismount players with a reasonable degree of effort. No more carrying around 700 fucking arrows in your pocket or running for your life. You stand a chance against someone on a horse. I've been talking with the Reaper of Chess. He's been testing it himself. It's very easy to dismount players. You can punish people who rely on mounted combat. And a lot of the changes to mounted combat were literally what I asked for verbatim in my video. So they were very clearly listening to the feedback. Lances drain stamina now when they're readied. They cost a lot more stamina to be readied in the first place. When you collide with a target, they become unreadied. The damage has been reduced, so they're not one-shotting players anymore. They're not multi-hitting anymore. That bug was fixed. I won't even dwell on it, because, I mean, I'm so glad to have that era of Conan behind us. We took the horse issue and threw it into Mount Doom. It's over. It's done. The quest is finished. Because I always feel bad, like, when they do try to help out. Like, when they reduced the horse damage a while ago, it always sucks to be the guy that was like, I appreciate that you helped, but we kind of need more. You know, it's always have to keep asking for more. We can finally stop asking. It's done. It's over. We got what we needed. There's counterplay. It's been nerfed. It's a livable feature now. Thank fucking God. I can't wait to see all the tears on the forums from all the shitters that rely on horses, though. But that's part of the experience, isn't it? But they listen to a lot of the feedback, actually. They listen to a ton of it. The drawbridges have been nerfed. They've got something like 75,000 health now, which is still a lot. It's still more than a door, still more than a gate, but it's low enough that you could potentially blast it in a single explosion if they plug up, say, the keyhole or something like that. So those locations are no longer functionally unraidable. And this wasn't part of the live stream, but this was clarified later on the forums, but health bars are no longer visible in the way that they are now as well, so people don't have free ESP built into the game. Thank fucking God. Another one of those features that we've been waiting to get fixed forever. But it's gone. The way that it works now is very straightforward. If you hit somebody, you see their health bar, which is how it was before, and then after a while it goes away. So you can't just like automatically detect players near you. There were some movement changes as well. Combat feels very fluid. I mean, so when you take it all together, I mean, this is an excellent patch for PvP. Like we got a lot of stuff for PvP out of this. A meaningful attribute system for real builds. Horses finally got nerfed. Not even nerfed, they had counterplay, like actual mechanics added. Like specific weapons will deal extra stamina damage to horses now, if you can fucking believe it. I mean, again, literally asked for that verbatim in my video. We can breathe a sigh of relief. I'm very pleased. I think I left a comment on the live stream on YouTube. I was like, horses and drawbridges got nerfed. I can rest in peace. That's really all I needed out of this update, if I'm being honest with you. Dennis also said that they wanted to keep the gathering rates high on PvP servers. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed that the gathering rates have stayed at 2x on official servers ever since the anniversary event, and the transfer system's been disabled for a while now. I'm sure they're reworking it, or at least I'm hoping they are. So basically, in a single patch, we've had 90% of our problems solved. Obviously, there are still problems, but I mean, this is more than we've gotten out of the last, like, 3 years of patches, essentially. So generally speaking, I'm very pleased. I almost forgot to mention as well, Thralls got nerfed across the board as well. This is part of their, they're trying to make it so that Thralls are not these unkillable monsters and players can be the main character again. So hopefully the Thrall nerf is followed by a reworking of the boss mechanics and health values. Because a lot of the boss in this game can really only be fought by a Thrall. You really do feel like you need one, so hopefully they go through and adjust some values there. There was a patch a while back where the world bosses were given more AoE attacks and different attack patterns to make them more challenging rather than just tedious, so they definitely got the capacity to do it. Just a matter of time. I will say though, when it comes to the balance changes, they buffed tier 2 building pieces a lot, and you guys know I've always loved tier 2. I've been a big proponent of tier 2. I mentioned it in my previous building videos. My gut says that the buff is too much, but we're gonna have to wait and see until it actually hits live. A tier 2 foundation now has 75,000 health as opposed to 50,000 before, which I'm not saying it's so much that it's broken, I'm saying that it's too much in comparison or relative to tier 3. I think that it renders the tier 3 building pieces a little obsolete, considering how easy it is to mass produce tier 2. But at the same time, you know, something we acknowledged in the PvP videos, that bases are not healthy enough. So if the end result is they get a little extra health, you know, it's not the end of the world. I'm not going to complain about that. Like I said, I mean, really, I have almost nothing to complain about besides those couple spells that I think could potentially be bad. Everything else in 3.0 is phenomenal. I'm really happy with everything else that I saw, and I'm really glad that they listened to so much of the feedback as well. And that's where I should wrap up the video, because that's really all the meaningful stuff that I have to say. I don't want to spoil too much of what 3.0 has to offer, because I like to experience it for myself. I think theory crafting is what I enjoy the most in these games. And, you know, God knows there's going to be tons of guides and, you know, everything you need to know about 3.0 type videos, you know. But I know at least there's a considerable portion of you that were looking forward to this video because you were looking for some sort of epic rant about the Battle Pass. So I guess I should, at the very least, talk about the Battle Pass. Yeah, well, tough titties. I don't feel like it. And not because I'm in favor of a Battle Pass or because I think it's a good thing, but because I've talked about funcom and monetization enough for 1,000 lifetimes. But Kronk, you don't understand. This time they're using FOMO. Yeah, when they relaunched the Secret World, all of the loot was locked behind seasonal loot crates that could only be opened with real money. But Funcom using FOMO isn't new. In fact, that game was so greedy, enemies didn't even drop loot anymore. They dropped loot crates that you had to pay to open. If you wanted to use free-to-play methods to level your gear to max, it would require combining almost 10 million gear pieces, and paying shards for it with every combination, a currency you literally couldn't earn enough of in-game to keep up with those upgrades. And mind you, you'd only get one gear piece, literally one gear piece at a time from doing individual quests that each had a 72-hour lockout timer on them for free-to-play users. There was a daily login requirement for your daily reward FOMO, premium currency that could be used to buy skills and in-game currency. You had to pay for every weapon and its passive tree separately, and upgrading the quality level of your gear would cost you $25 per upgrade per gear piece, and full sets of gear would cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and of course, the drop rate on the decent items from the loot crates was something like a fraction of a percent. So you'd have to pay literally hundreds of dollars for a chance at the rarity of item you wanted, while still not having any guarantee of getting the specific item you wanted. And people sadly tested this with their own money. The video I made about this is still on the channel for anybody curious. It's an older video, so it's not as polished, but it gets the job done. I mean, guys, come on, they literally took reviews for a different product and put it on the Steam page for Secret World Legends to inflate the clearly negative review scores, which I'm still not even sure is legal. Like, guys, come on, step it up, guys. Lock it in, everybody. Wakey, wakey. You're surprised they're adding a Battle Pass? I'm surprised at how tame it is. Clearly somebody at Funcom went to bat for us, because if their monetization experts, as they're called, were allowed to do to Conan what they have done to their previous games, they'd be robbing you guys blind right now. I can't help but laugh when I get angry comments sometimes over the sponsors I take, like, I would never support such a great company. You do. You already do. If you play Conan or give money to Funcom in any way, then you already support a company that did everything mobile games do except way worse. And at least with a mobile game, you know exactly what you're signing up for. At least they don't infiltrate an existing game to rob its player base when they're desperate for rent money. I hope none of you guys drive. If this is the level of awareness you guys have for a company after playing their games for hundreds or even thousands of hours, I don't want to be on the same street as you guys when you're changing lanes. You're gonna kill somebody. It's like the PvPers that were all up my asshole in the PvP video because I didn't complain about hackers enough. When the first several videos on my channel did exactly that, I mean, it was video after video holding Funcom's feet to the fire over exploiters, undermeshers, and whatever else. It's like, you guys born yesterday? Like, how does that happen? How can none of you know anything about Funcom, Conan, or this channel while still being passionately enraged by all of it? And you know, not for nothing, but back in the day when I was on the forums making videos about Funcom and monetization and hackers and etc, it was a lot of the PvPers who would give me some of the most shit over it, so I don't even want to hear it. I won't name names, but certain outspoken owners of prominent PvP private servers were incredibly disrespectful to me back in the day. You know, the stop complaining, just host your own server types. You know, yeah, let me just fix the game myself. Which, if I had listened to them, 90% of the feedback that made it into the 3.0 update and previous updates wouldn't have happened, so, you know, remember that when they try to roleplay as community leaders. But let's get back to monetization. I had a video on the channel that had almost 80,000 views on it, detailing Funcom's past business practices at a time when I only had a couple thousand subscribers. But even if you ignore their other games and just focus on Conan, I always thought it was ridiculous that Conan was getting over $100 in cosmetic DLCs, even as the official servers were filled with exploits and they weren't getting fixed. You can still build flying bases and all kinds of other shit on officials. But when I pointed that out, multiple times, nobody wanted to hear it. I was just a toxic PvPer after all, what do I know? And then when Sifta became pay to win with the server transfers, I called that out too, but 90% of the Conan community didn't give a fuck because it only affected us lowly, no-good PvPers. After all, we deserve it. How dare we right-click people in a game mode where we all consent to be right-clicked? How dare I steal pixels? That's inherently toxic. Wait a minute, Funcom's charging us for decorative tableware? Fellow Redditors and forum regulars, we must rally against this wicked oppression and FOMO. Yeah, my guy, before you go crusading, you drop this. If you're only going to care about monetization when it affects you directly, then this is just how it's going to be. Oh, okay, now that I've received permission from the Reddit mob and the forum circle jerk, now I'm allowed to talk about monetization. Oh, okay. Now that it's become trendy, I can talk about it? Is that how that works?
Get the fuck out.
And to be fair, for those of you that didn't know about this channel's history, I've delisted a lot of those older videos over time for a variety of reasons. For one, it wasn't accomplishing anything. Two, they had copyrighted music in them, which is always a concern. I never had any strikes, but it's better to be safe than sorry. But more importantly than that, I figured at one point I sat down and I asked myself, am I really going to spend the rest of my time on YouTube living in Funcom's shadow, making angry videos and scrounging for worthless internet clout, and fiery emoji replies from 12-year-olds that don't know any better? They always tell you to, look, where do you see yourself in 15 years? In 50 years from now? Am I seriously going to be on YouTube like, welcome back to another epic rant video. Today I found out that Funcom has beige carpets in their office. Imagine beige carpets. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Prune juice is getting expensive. So yeah, I could do that, or I could choose to be somebody instead. So I started working on the Conan movie at around that same time, which, at the time I only had a couple thousand subscribers, and I'd say that those efforts paid off pretty well. By comparison, for all the effort that I put into rallying and raising awareness and rightfully complaining about monetization back in the day, even including the years before I had this channel, nobody wanted to listen and nobody even seems to remember that I did it. So, clearly that was time well spent. And the longer I left those videos up, it was like digging my own grave. People just wanted me to keep making content exactly like that, so I cut it, I tossed it. I no longer own a pair of clown shoes large enough to participate in whatever the fuck it is you guys are gonna do. So for those of you that want me to whine about hackers and exploits, I did that. And if you want me to whine about monetization, I already did that too. What I do now is entertainment. That's my focus, and that's just how it's gonna be. Which segues nicely into our final topic. Am I gonna return for 3.0? And the answer is, I don't know. I might. I don't think I can, though. I think I've been very blessed to have a lot of free time to work on videos over the last 2 years or so, and I'd like to think that the time that I put in has paid off in terms of the quality. We've made some real gains, but real life is going to be getting in the way hard over the next couple months. I don't think I'm going to be able to play 3.0 when it comes out. I will be watching from a distance. I might be able to make like guide videos, like I'll probably pump out some of those because I can do that, but the days of me being able to put 200 hours into a playthrough and then 200 hours into video editing, and not to stroke my own ego or nothing, but the proper videos on the channel, obviously this one's kind of phoned in, but the big productions take a lot of time and a lot of effort, and a lot of things have to go right. There's so many playthroughs that don't even make it to the channel because they're not interesting enough. And then when you finally, like after hundreds of hours of playing, you get something decent, and then the editing and the time put into the music selection, it's something that I'm probably not going to be able to do moving forward. Not forever. I'm not saying never, ever, ever, but there's going to be a gap. And if there is any gameplay footage on this channel, it's probably going to be for V Rising, just because that game's a lot easier on my schedule. I can send the slaves out to farm for me, etc., etc. You know how it is. It's anyone who plays Conan, which, I mean, most of you don't, even though you guys are like ravenously addicted to Conan content and will harass me if I make anything else. The three of you that actually do play this game should understand that it takes an immense amount of time because it's not scripted content. Going onto an official server and making something happen, I don't want to say it's hard because it's video games, right? Like, it's not like I'm working in the coal mines, but I guess I'm rambling. The point is I'm probably not going to have time. And when I do have time, I will come back and we will see. hopefully, maybe. But I don't know. It's all up in the air, boys. So, despite having to rant at the last half at my feverish hatred of what Funcom has done in the past. I mean, the reason I made that PvP video, the long one, was because even though I don't like the company, I know that there's people at that company that really do care about the product. People that listen to feedback and make a better game. And so I adopted a very friendly tone for that video in the hope that they would listen, and they did. And a lot of really great feedback made it in, and 3.0 is looking really great. It's got a lot of excellent features. I would recommend people try it, and I'm looking forward to playing it myself if I can ever find the time. But like I said, no promises on that. So if you made it to the end of this rambling, partially rant-filled video, I appreciate it. Thank you for watching.